This is what we sort of discussed last season, wasn't it? This lack of fight, this lack of desire, this lack of wanting to put the, even though they're saying we're giving 100%, there was obviously something clearly missing. That's completely changed around this season from the very beginning. Since Chris Davis come with all these new players, no Blues fan can argue about the fight and desire of our players, and that's all Blues fans want to see.
So welcome back to BCFC Royal Blue. And on Saturday afternoon, Birmingham City beat Charlton Athletic 1-0 in what turned out to be a hard-fought 3 points. Now, fair play to Dad. He did say in the pre-match video that got released last week that this wasn't going to be a pretty game of football, and it certainly wasn't a glamorous game. But who cares? We showed our resilience. We got those 3 points, and we now move to 15 games unbeaten in the league, 9 points clear with a game in hand. And ultimately, as I say, we got those 3 points. So, Dad, Birmingham City 1, Charlton Athletic 0. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, in the pre-video, I also got the score right, didn't I?
You did.
As I said, it'll be 1-0, expecting a cagey game, and it was one of those teams that you play that you know that they're going to try and frustrate and pressurise, and fair play to them. Their energy levels was high as most teams that we played this season, and they did try and stop us and press us. But in the end, I think it was a thoroughly deserved 1-0 win, regardless of what Nathan Jones said in his post-match interview, which I'll come on to a little bit later. We deserved to win this game. We had better chances, particularly by half-time. We should have been 2 or 3 up. Yeah. And, they did what they did when we played them at the Valley. We got revenge for that. They beat us 1-0 there, and we weren't at the races that day. And I think Chris Davis had learned from that. Yeah. And ultimately, another valuable 3 points for us.
I think the first half, Dad, we were pretty dominant. I thought we had a few really good chances. We were going at them. We were shifting the ball quickly. We were causing them quite a few problems, weren't we? They didn't really cause us any bother. And then in the second half, because they were 1-0 down, they came at us a little bit more, didn't they? Yeah. They went a bit more direct. Yeah. They got even more physical, and they had... I still don't think they caused as many problems. You could say they had 1 or 2 half chances, really. We're going to be fully giving the game credit here. But overall, Dad, a pretty controlled performance. But let's get into it quickly, because we seem to do this every week, Dad, and I don't want it to dominate the conversation. But let's get it out early doors. Let's talk about the refereeing.
We talked about this, didn't we, in the car on the way home, and what me and Matt were saying was that on a lot of podcasts, the vast majority of podcasts this season, if you look back at some of our post-match analysis, the referee's prominent in all of them, but this referee seemed to be well up there with the worst we've ever had, and it was awful, wasn't he? And what it is, it's just the inconsistency of it. So you wouldn't mind if he was being fair, so that if he was making a decision for one team and it was consistent with the other, you think, well, okay, still not a great decision, but at least you're being fair to both teams. But this referee was terrible. I mean, there's so many different things that we could discuss. No, I don't want this podcast to be about the referees either. You don't matter.
It needs calling out, though, Dad.
It does need calling out, but it's not something that we should be surprised about anymore. We were told before a ball was kicked this season by other League One fans that the quality of refereeing is awful. And to be honest with you, I know it's not an easy job, because I used to be a county referee myself. And I know how difficult it is to make decisions on the spot, and particularly for the modern referee now, particularly in televised games where you've got the benefit for, I suppose, not for the referee, but for the teams of replays, and in top level you've got VAR. That don't make it any easier for the referees, to be honest, because you have to make a decision there and then. But ultimately, what the referees they've got to do, there has to be something done about it.
They've got to do the basics, Dad. Yeah. They've got to catch it when a keeper catches it half a yard out of the side of his box. You've got to catch that. When Clara handballs it and then a Charlton player handballs it 5 minutes later, Clara gets the yellow card and the Charlton player doesn't. You've got to be consistent.
Well, what frustrated me about that one, Matt, is that we were over the other end of the ground in the Tilton, but even from where we were, he looked like he was out of his area.
It was, yeah.
But the lino was actually right opposite, watching that. He must have known he was out. So the assistant referees, not linos as they're called now, are supposed to support the referee. And it doesn't help as well where Nathan Jones states that what was all the fuss about, that it was clearly inside. When if you look at the
stills,
what he said? Yeah. if you clearly look at the stills of that game, the ball is out.
It's half a yard.
Yeah, so that's frustrating. What's if the assistant referee isn't there to make those decisions or help the referee? What are they there for?
No, I agree.
Because the referee might argue, I might have had players in front of me, I didn't have a good angle, but literally there was nothing blocking the line. I looked at it, the assistant referee from that goalkeeper. There's no player in between them, and it would be obvious that was clearly out.
It's a really good point, Dad, and I've picked up on this in my notes as well. The referees are in the middle of the action. They need to rely on their assistant refs to get the decisions right as well. And I feel like there's a lack of courage with the assistant refs. There's a lack of decisiveness. They seem scared to raise the flag and make a decision. Like, you are there to assist the referee. Like, have some courage and actually make a decision. We saw it against Newcastle. The assistant ref who somehow give that ball over the line. They're just not doing the job they're supposed to do. But ultimately, Dad, the buck stops with the ref. He's in charge of the game, isn't he? And, he's the one who's giving all the yellows, inconsistency challenges. We'll move on quickly, Dad, because we don't want this to dominate the conversation. But again, poor officiating of the game.
Yeah, again, just one more example of poor officiating. Yeah, he gave Clara a yellow card for handball. Which wasn't really. I mean, he was running through with momentum, so he didn't actually put his ball to the hand, but he gave him a handball. He gave him a yellow card for that. And then a few minutes later, there was a Charlton player who did virtually the same thing with an even clearer handball. He didn't even talk to him. Mm-hmm. He just let the play go on. So how the referees can suggest that that's consistency, and they'll give you all the science. Oh, his hands were in an unnatural position and all that type of rubbish. At the end of the day, it's either a handball or it's not. And if you're going to give it for one team, you've got to give it for the other, and that's all we're looking for. If you're going to make bad decisions, make them consistent for both teams.
When he didn't book the Charlton player, we were through on goal. That's how bad that one was. So anyway, back to the game, Dad. And what I'm really proud of this season is new manager, new squad. Our game's constantly evolving, isn't it? We've gone from that possession. We've shown that we can play free-flowing football. We've shown that we can play build-up. We've shown resilience. We've shown that we can get stuck in. I think over the course of this season, we've showed so many different elements to our game, haven't we? And this past part of the season, sort of like the last, say, 2 months, we've really shown how much we can dig in, match a team's physicality, get stuck in and graft and get 3 points over the line. And I'm so proud of being a Birmingham City supporter at the moment, following my team, seeing these boys go through this season and just showing all the different variations to the game we have at the moment.
Yeah, we've learned to manage games. We've learned to cope with different types of opposition, and we've shown teams that we're not going to get pushed around. I mean, this is the problem. Last season we were getting bullied off the park a lot. This ain't happening this season. We're standing up for man for man with the opposition, whatever they try to do, and we knew that Charlton would be a tough nut to crack because they were quite resilient, let's say, against us at the Valley, which eventually won the game. But I think there was conversations that some of the Charlton fans were saying that they weren't happy with the way that they felt that we were wasting time. But I felt
pot kettle black.
Well, I thought that as well because a Charlton fan made a comment on one of our videos about that about the pre-match video. This was after the game, saying that if you think that you weren't running the clock down, then you're hypocrites. And then I commented back saying, of course we were in the last 10-15 minutes. We weren't going to rush to play the game, but not on the level that they were. They were rolling around and being instructed by Nathan Jones to go down, and it was nothing like the level that they did. And this is the problem: is that you want to try and manage a game. Part of that is to, particularly if you're 1-0 up and you've got a narrow lead, clearly you're not going to rush. But that was what they were doing at the Valley was completely different in terms of that they were literally. Somebody said, "Oh, Allsop went down," which he did to get treatment, and they're saying, "Oh, that's just wasting time." Go back to the game at the Valley, Charlton fans. How many times did your goalkeeper go down? How many times were your players just almost like just rolling around on the ground with nothing around them as well? So I'm not going to argue and say we didn't do any sort of trying to slow the game down and run the clock down, but it was nothing like the level they did. And
I'm glad we did it. I felt like it was a bit of karma, if I'm honest. As I said, they can moan all they like, and Charlton fans are going to be in the comment section moaning. I know they are. That's the kind of. From reading social media, that they've been very moany. But you look back at the Valley, Dad, it's completely hypocritical to call us.
But they won't see that, Matt.
Of course they won't.
They won't see that. Of course, they'll be, Birmingham City, all this money. They will say, all this money you've spent and you only beat us 1-0 and it was 1 goal. And that's what Nathan Jones said as well. I don't get that guy. What's he doing? He said the only difference was one mistake from our player, one bit of quality, and besides that we matched them. But they should have been 3 or 4 down by half time, and we had the better chances. And like you said, I can't remember any major chances they had. Not one.
Not major.
Not one. No. I can't remember one. Allsop, he had one where the ball went straight. It's the second half where it was a shot that was a tame shot that went straight into him. And I think they had a few crosses where they'd missed them and that. But there's nothing nothing that worried us at all in the whole game. So how can you possibly say that that was a close game and we was unlucky? They also, which I thought was hilarious, Nathan Jones said, he said their fans out Sangaz. I mean, I hardly heard a peep from the chat. Okay, there were occasions when they made a bit of noise, but they were, it's absolutely that guy. Honestly, frustrates the life out of me. And at the end of the day, he's entitled to his opinion, but of course, he does seem to watch a different game to everybody else.
Yeah, I know. He's the pantomime villain, is he, Nathan Jones? He doesn't do himself any favours.
He gave us a guarded compliment, though. He said, he said something like, it's a game between two proper teams, which is sort of, two proper sets of fans.
It's kind of a backhanded compliment.
It was after he said all the rubbish that basically was completely misleading. Ultimately, I don't think Charlton are the worst team in this division by any stretch of the imagination. They will continue to win games and they'll have a good challenge for the playoffs. They will.
I think they have a game plan, Dad, and they execute it pretty well. They aim to be physical. They aim to disrupt. They do go pretty direct. It works for them. We had the Wrexham post video, Dad, or the pre-video, and we mentioned about them being direct and getting balls in the box, and they got really defensive about it. Like, it's not a negative. You just play into the strength.
That's your game.
It's your game, and you're good at it. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, own it. Like, if Blues were, we've been a physical team for years. Blues, back in the Premier League days, I saw a podcast with Jeff Horsfield, Dad, and he said we knew we weren't the most technically gifted players, but we got stuck in.
Yeah.
That was Blues' biggest attribute back in the Premier League, and we owned it. Like, just own your team's strengths and what you're capable of doing. Anyway, I thought it was a physical game. I thought both teams got stuck in. There were some dirty moments. It's a game of football. I'm not going to cry about it. Who cares?
There was, but I don't think it was like excessively dirty.
No, I don't think so.
And I think there's a fine line between a dirty game and a physical game.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that this was a physical game, but not as physical as some of the other games we've recently had.
No.
So there was nothing to worry us too much about that. But interestingly as well, I think for the first time that I can remember this season, Chris Davis named a completely unchanged starting lineup and at the same time a completely unchanged bench as well.
Yeah.
It was. I don't remember because we've normally either if we've had a starting lineup maybe the same, but the bench has changed around. That tells us that clearly that is his preferred starting 11, and that's the people he wants on the bench. But also, we have got a couple of players coming back. I mean, Taylor Gardner-Hickman is probably going to come into that mix. We've also got that new South Korean left back
Lee.
at some point, Myung Jae Lee, and also as well, we've also got Emil Hansen, who is recovering.
What's happened to Hansen? I've not seen him for
I think
ages.
he's still recovering from injury, and it wonders where someone like Hansen will fit in, but. We have got players coming back, but it shows you because of the way he picked the team, that is clearly Chris Davis's preferred team. Obviously, Alfie was on the bench again, Alfie May, and I know a lot of players say, he's going to be upset because he's not getting much game time, but Chris Davis has to pick the team that he feels is going to win this game. And clearly, he made the right choice because Jay Stansfield scored a cracking goal to win it.
I think Chris Davis, Dad, has seen the fact that, Blues fans have been banging this drum for quite some time. When May and Stansfield are shoehorned into the same team, it's clunky, isn't it? So it's kind of one or the other. And I think it's working quite well.
We've had this conversation as well, Matt, as you said. The fact is, if you've got Alfie May, we has to be in the number 9. That means Jay is going to be out on the left, that's where we've always started. But I think by doing that, you're denying a quality left-hand player, or even somebody like Keshi Anderson, who's not naturally left-footed. So actually, by playing May and Stansfield, you're denying the introduction of a supply line.
Because the way I see Stansfield, Dad, he's a number 9 that can play with. He's not a winger. He's not his natural position. He's a number 9. He's a goal scorer. I mean, we'll come on to the goal he scored, Dad, an absolute trademark Stansfield
goal. Which came
off
the right wing, didn't it?
Which came off the right wing, but he's not a winger.
Yeah.
And he's a number 9. So when he plays there, I agree with you, you're denying someone who is a really good winger to create chances. Dowell and Keshi Anderson, Dad, have been outstanding, haven't they? So just coming back to the original point, I think Davis has got it right, in my opinion, of playing either or in the number 9 at the moment. Stansfield or May? No,
I completely agree. I mean, I do have a bit of sympathy for Alfie May.
Yeah,
he was the Golden Boot winner in League One last season. He must be thinking to himself, what do I do on the bench? Because he'd walk into any other League One team. Any other League One team in this division, he will be a starter without a shadow of a doubt.
I love him.
Yeah.
I think Alfie May's a great player. Dad, he's a goal scorer. He's a born goal scorer.
Doesn't it just show you, Matt, the quality of our squad? 100%. I mean, to have Alfie May, and actually the rest of the players, Bigelek on the bench, Alfie May on the bench, Scott Wright on the bench.
Yeah.
They're quality players that would pretty much walk into probably some championship teams, maybe most championship teams, and virtually every League One team, but they're on our bench.
I know.
But anyway, you can't criticise. I mean, Chris Davis is churning out results left, right and centre. So you can't argue with what he's done. I mean, on the goal, mate, let's go to the goal because I think that's worth discussing because he was a trademark trademark Jay Stansfield goal, wasn't it? And these are the goals that we know him for. Remember last season? Basically, Connor Coventry, he basically chased a lost course because the ball, I think Connor Coventry was maybe trying to shield the ball out for a throw-in. And Jay just got his leg round and just clipped it in. Then he went past him, and then Connor Coventry slipped trying to chase him, and then he went through, defender in front of him, and just dinked it to the right, and he just wellied it. And they're the type of goals. I mean, it reminded me, it was the other end of the ground, but the goal against Plymouth when he first joined us last season. And similar type of thing, you know.
And Stoke away. And there's many goals he scored. Many goals which he scored, which is sort of mirror image of that, really. But what really made me laugh, that again, coming back to the Charlton fans, they said you only beat us off the back of a Charlton mistake. They completely ignored the fact he carried the ball 20 yards and pinged it like a rocket in the top corner.
It's like one of the defenders had just literally miskicked it and he just tapped it in, wasn't it? No, he literally won the ball, went through, and actually had players in front of him, dinked it round and belted. And did you notice as well, because of all the stick he got at the Valley about what a waste of money, he went over to the Charlton fans as well and celebrated in front of them. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, that was a goal worthy of winning any game. And it was, to me, it was typical Jay Stansfield.
Signature goal, wasn't it, for STANNO?
That's why we've said, you know, that really he needs to be in those positions where he's got a bit of space to run onto. When he gets the ball, you know, there's every chance that he's going to score those type of chances.
I'll tell you what I loved about that, Dad. Don't get me wrong, the finish was outstanding. His pace, his vision to sort of dink it to the right and then cut in. Getting the ball in the first place, because it shows he just doesn't stop running. He's annoying, isn't he? He niggles. He's got, you know, he's getting quite physical now, STANNO, and like he just got the ball back, no nonsense, went forward and absolutely screamed it. So cracking goal, 1-0 Blues. And I think after that, we kind of took control in the first half.
Well, we had other chances. I mean, Kieran Dowell, not long after that, you know, he had a free kick which hit the base of the post. You know, literally,
he saved it.
We thought that from Aaron because he was at the other end of the ground, wasn't he? We were in the Tilton, so that was in front of the Gilmerick goal. We thought that the goalkeeper had saved it, but he couldn't have because he went out for a goal kick. So when I looked at it on the replay, it literally just touched the outside of the post. So Kieran Dowell wasn't too far away for a goal. Also, Williamson shot just wide of the left-hand post. He had a little cross from Keshi, and he just dinked it just past the left-hand post. And Tomoki Wata as well. You know, this is the chance we had. Ethan Laird and Stansfield combined on the right-hand side, set him up, and Stansfield cut it back at a really good pace to Wata, who was rushing in, but Maynard Brewer, their goalkeeper, was, you know, just behind the finish, so that could have been that. So their chances, and there are others as well that we had, but they were the clear chances that we had, and that could have been 3 or 4-0.
You mentioned a lot of attacking opportunities there, Dad. Obviously, the outfield players get a lot of credit. Again, first half, let's talk about Allsop's distribution. Absolutely outstanding. Again, played about another 3 or 4 through balls. Really just confident on the ball. I mean, what a keeper he is. I absolutely love Allsop. I think he's great, and I think again worthy of a shout out in that first half of his distribution.
Yeah, again, he's just been brilliant, hasn't he? And he's part of the attack, isn't he? Because you know, we always build from the back, but if we can have some direct balls in, again, Nathan Jones said that, you know, we paid Charlton a compliment because we were going direct, but I think he's missing the point. We were occasionally going direct, but we weren't lofting the ball all the time.
It's part of our strategy for Allsop to play in Laird. We've seen it all season. Yeah. We've seen it in the later part of this bit of the season. But what I'll say about Laird, Dad, has he got a trampoline in his training? Because he's not that tall a bloke. He wins. Look, honestly, Blues fans, look at Laird. He wins 95% of the headers that Allsop puts up to him, and he's beating players foot bigger than him.
He's got the spring of a mountain goat. I mean, he you're right, but he really has improved, hasn't he, over the last 2 or 3 months. I mean, my word. I mean, we always knew there was a player in there, but a lot of criticism for him because of his usual end products. But he's really, really come on, hasn't he?
Dead quick on Laird, Dad. Someone posted a picture of him at full time. It was just him walking back. It was the back of him. He looked like he'd been to war, you know, covered in the white line, mud, filth, you know.
I'm sure that's what Chris Davis would want to see.
It was a great picture, though. It just showed how stuck in Laird got. And, you know, we saw that team talk from Chris Davis, didn't he? He talked about brotherhood and, you know, your brother's in trouble, you're there, you don't even think about it. And he's fair play to Davis. He's instilled that culture, hasn't he, at Blues now. They've all got their backs.
You fight for everything. I mean, last season, I mean, some of the players come off, they don't even wash the kit. They'd be ready for next. You know, there was some really. This is what we could. You know, this is what we sort of discussed last season, wasn't it? This lack of fight, this lack of desire, this lack of wanting to put the. You know, even though they're saying we're giving 100%, you know, there was obviously something clearly missing. That's completely changed around this season from the very beginning. Since since Chris Davis come with all these new players, no Blues fan can argue about the fight and desire of our players, and that's all Blues fans want to see.
Yeah.
And we're getting like Ethan Laird is a prime example, isn't he? But you could, Christoph Clara, he's a warrior, isn't he? Ben Davies. I mean, we could go through the whole team really. Stansfield never stops running.
Clara is Mel Gibson on the horse, isn't he? Leading his men into battle. He's in Braveheart. He's the one leading the charge. He's the captain. He's the one, isn't he? He's just out. I mean, Clara's just outstanding. And fair play to him, Dad, because I think he's kind of not in his shadow, but he doesn't get the credit he deserves. He's Ben Davies as well. Outstanding. When those two are together, it's the partnership of League One, isn't it? If we do go back up, fingers crossed, it's looking good. Those two in the Championship, if we sign Ben Davies, will be absolutely outstanding.
And we've got to Phil Neumann to come in.
To
come in as well. It is actually quite frightening. In fact, since we lost against Shrewsbury all that time ago now, 15 games ago, we've won 12, drawn 3, and conceded just 4 goals.
It's staggering, isn't it?
Because we was all depressed, and rightly so, when we came away from Shrewsbury. Thought, hang on, what's going on here? We've been beaten by Shrewsbury, we're bottom of the league, and then suddenly, if someone says to you, and you wasn't the coach, don't worry, next 15 games you're going to win 12 and draw 3. You're only going to concede 4 goals. You think, oh, okay, fine, that's no problem. But you didn't know at the time.
No. But Dad, Chris Davis's win percentage at Blues is 72.5%.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't think he gets enough credit, Chris Davis, because everyone says, well, he should be doing that because of all the money he spent. And that's why he's probably not won Manager of the Month. Not that he'd be bothered by that. But, how can he not have won Manager of the Month? A team that's lost twice all season. And he's never, I don't know if other fans who are watching this know this, but, since August, September, October, November, December, January, February, Chris Davis has never, ever won Manager of the Month. How is that possible with a team that has lost only 2 games all season? And he won't care. I know he won't care, but it just shows you that I think, we've had this conversation before, Matt, where maybe the factor is, it's Birmingham City, they basically bought the league. But it's not as simple as that. I mean, how many managers could bring in that many players and get them to play like this so quickly? Because I don't think there's
Dad, if money won football games, United, Chelsea, Tottenham, they'd all be winning trophies every single season. And fair enough, I know they win the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup and all these things, but money doesn't guarantee success for many teams, does it? And we've seen it over and over again. You need to be able to have that. What did Neil Warnock describe? He said 99% of managing is people management.
Yeah.
How do you develop that team spirit? Get the quieter players fired up, and everyone. All these different elements. It's a man management game.
It's all about man management. Yeah.
And where we have time, Dad. I know we're going on here, but for the second half, we've mentioned the first half, second half. I felt we slowed down a little bit. They came into the game a little bit. Nothing dangerous. Nothing. They didn't have any clear cut chances, but I felt like maybe our ball retention wasn't as sharp as it was in the first half. And we did give them a little bit too much space, sometimes on the wings. But apart from that, I don't think they gave us any trouble. In fact, it was testimony, Dad. The loudest the Charlton fans got was when they won a corner in the second half. Yeah. In fact, the bloke said to me, he goes, did they just score?
Yeah.
That was the loudest they cheered. So we kept them quiet. They didn't have many chances.
But according to Nathan Jones, they outsang the Blues fans.
Of course,
of course he's going to say that.
Also, is there a trophy for singing loud?
Who cares? And that's a good point. So even if they did outsing us, thanks for the 3 points. It doesn't really matter. I mean, why I don't know. What he's talking rubbish, isn't he? I mean, he really gets to me, that bloke. I don't know why. There's something about him that he's just completely oblivious to what's the reality of what the game that everybody else has watched. He completely did something else. In the second half, though, like you say, Matt, to be fair to them, they were 1-0 down. If they wanted to get anything out the game, they had to be a bit more progressive, which they was. I just felt as well, for about 10-15 minutes midway through that second half, our midfield lost control a little bit in terms of, we not lost control, but allowed them to pass the ball around, which we normally do to them. So fair play to them for that. But what they did, though, they brought on some tall players. That Miles Lieberman came on, and Alex Gilbert, the substitutes that came on. That was after he brought on Daniel Kanu and Carell Anderson. So they'd midfield substitutions to what they felt attacking substitutions. But it didn't make a huge amount of difference. When Matty Godden came off, which is their top scorer, and he had nothing all game.
He was getting really frustrated.
Yeah, we saw that, didn't we?
Yeah.
But you could tell that they weren't going to be their day, and we just didn't allow them to steamroller over us, and I thought we managed the game out really, really well and deserved the 3 points. So for me, fantastic game. Let's not forget that Charlton aren't a bad team. They came into this game with really good form in the playoff positions in 5th place, and but we also controlled the first half. We went 1-0 up. Charlton had very few chances that we could worry about. We've mentioned the referee decisions were really poor. In fact, Chris Davis got a yellow card for complaining about that ball that had gone out the box. I mean, he may have done it in a way that obviously was aggressive. I don't know. I didn't hear it, but he got booked for that as well. But we go on. We keep going. We're now, like you mentioned in the intro, Matt. We're now 9 points ahead of second place Wycombe with a game in hand, and 11 points ahead of Wrexham with a game in hand, and
Staggering.
And we just keep going, and that's all we can do. We've got some games coming up against those teams that are in and around the playoffs over the next few weeks, and if we keep performing the way we are, we'll definitely get to where we need to be.
Yeah, this run is outstanding, isn't it? Hopefully, long may it continue, Dad, and fire up the championship bus. Hopefully, if we keep on this momentum, it's looking good, isn't it?
It is, and at the end of the day, all we can ask for our team and for our players is to keep doing what they're doing.
They're working hard, aren't they? They're fighting for the badge. And,
we're clear. Next game, we've got Bradford in the semi-final, the Virtue Trophy, which is on Tuesday. Then we're back to an important league game away at Reading again, which is a team that are challenging for the playoffs. So
you'll be there.
We just
got
keep
tickets for that this last week, Dad. So excited for that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
So as always, Birmingham City supporters, we'd love to hear from you. Please let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Maybe you're a Charlton fan. Maybe you watched the pre-video. Maybe you were at the game, or maybe you watched this video for the first time. Please let us know your thoughts in the comments section below as well. If you like this video specifically, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up and check us out on our social media channels. We have an X page, we have an Instagram page, and you can also listen to us over on Spotify now as well. And if you haven't already, please don't forget to hit that big red subscribe button and hit that bell notification so you get notified every time we post a video. And myself and Dad will see you on the next one, all about Birmingham City.